Good morning and afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar sponsored by Rootstock Software. We are pleased to introduce our new webinar series, Discover Rootstock ERP, that focuses on common manufacturing business pains and how to solve them. From time to time, a Rootstock customer will be invited to tell their story. Webinars that feature one of our customers will be called Succeed with Rootstock. Webinars are 30 to 45 minutes long, will be held monthly starting today through the end of 2017. This is the first webinar in our new series. Our topic today is Succeed with Rootstock. ProTech replaces spreadsheets and old software with Rootstock. Moving on to some housekeeping. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. Screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop in the upper right corner. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. All attendees will be on mute throughout the presentation. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Now we'll take a look at our upcoming schedule. Today we'll be covering Succeed with Rootstock. ProTech replaces spreadsheets and old software with Rootstock. Our next Discover Rootstock ERP webinar is scheduled for August 15th, 2017, and will cover the topic Discover Rootstock ERP, top 5 inventory mistakes and how to avoid them. I encourage you to follow Rootstock Software on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and more for the latest and most important information about Cloud ERP. Follow Rootstock Software on social media. I would now like to introduce our presenters. Our featured presenter is Chris Muto, Senior Operations Manager at ProTech. Chris has been with ProTech for 10 years managing both sales and operations. He was previously with Light Fabrications. Chris has a BS in Business Administration from Florida State University. I would now like to introduce our other presenter, David Bush, Senior Manufacturing Consultant at Rootstock Software. David Bush has 30+ years of manufacturing and MRP ERP systems experience. David was previously at General Microcircuits, Consona Corporation, and Relevant Business Systems. Today's webcast will show you firsthand how ProTech went from too many manual spreadsheets to Rootstock Cloud ERP. Chris of ProTech will share what life was like before Rootstock, the implementation process, benefits and ROI, lessons learned and gotchas, and finally, ProTech's future plans. David will walk you through some of the Rootstock modules that contributed to ProTech's success. We will wrap up with a Q&A session. Please type your questions into the console anytime during the presentation. It is finally time for Chris to share his journey. Chris, take it away.
Thank you for the introduction, and hello, everyone. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us and hear a little bit about ProTech's journey and story through this process to go on and choose an ERP system and implement it, which was Rootstock. We can go on to the next slide, please. A little bit about what ProTech is so that those listening can get a feel for, what we do here and how software might, how our situation might be applicable to anyone else listening. We are a heavy manufacturer. We manufacture wheel loader attachments, specifically snowplows that go on backhoes, loaders, and skid steers. We're the largest manufacturer in North America of those style of snowplows. We patented and invented the product called the Snow Pusher. And what makes us not challenging, but what gives us a unique stance for an ERP system is that we are a vertically integrated manufacturer. We manufacture every component here. There's only several things that we purchased pre-made for us. So we're a totally vertically integrated, discrete manufacturer, and that was that's the mold that we fit in our use case for ERP and our changeover to this system. And that's it. You can check out our website, snowpusher.com, to see more about what we do. And we can go on to the next slide. Before Rootstock, you know, the way that I like to sum it up is spreadsheets, spreadsheets, and more spreadsheets. We had spreadsheets for everything, to get a lead time, to find out if something was in stock. The problem with using spreadsheets to find out if something is in stock is it's all manual processes to keep it updated. You're relying on a lot of people remembering to do something to, you know, it was always off. So, you know, we had a spreadsheet for that. All of our costing spreadsheets, it was very, very cumbersome. We had spreadsheets for tracking expenses. Each different subledger account kind of had its own spreadsheet. And so you can imagine how cumbersome that was. Pick the next number from the column to get a purchase order number. Very, very complex, very inefficient, all of this stuff not linked together. So when it came down for month ends and inventories, it was extremely time consuming and took literally, at least, we got it down to taking one full day, but it used to take longer. We were running also outdated software. We had an on-premise ERP system that did basically just our financials. We weren't using it to cut work orders or maintain inventory or do any shop floor control. And that was an old system. It was on a SQL server housed in a closet, you know, down the hall from the bathrooms, basically. And inside of that also was another SQL server that ran our CRM system, Goldmine. So between those two things, there wasn't great communication. The communication that did exist between those two systems required expensive outside professional consulting, someone that understood Microsoft SQL language and could write, you know, the two systems to query and talk to each other. That ties right into the disconnected systems and remote desktop issues. For our employees to work off-site, our sales reps to work off-site, it required, you know, going into a terminal server, which was another server housed here at ProTech. And it was slow to get access. All of the typing was, you know, you type something and then 3 seconds later it would come across your screen. So it was very slow and not conducive and unreliable as well, not conducive to a modern workforce. In order to do certain things in the system, there was, you know, little flexibility even to our business processes. So we had time-consuming workarounds to make things happen. You know, hey, can you fudge this? You know, hey, finance department, can you just do it this time? Or, you know, there was a lot of things that had to happen to expedite things, and they were never cumbersome and never pretty. And a lot of manual intervention, and the Rootstock Financial Force Salesforce implementation has cut down a lot on heavy manual intervention. The manual intervention had gotten so bad here, and maybe some of you listening can kind of relate to this, that we literally built up an internal lead time. There was places to leave a form for this person to take care of it, a form for this step, a form, then you had to wait for the form to get filled out and brought back to you. Somebody would have to go check on something. All of these things, these manual steps, manual interventions added an internal lead time. And by the time that the order or the demand signal got to our shop floor, 1 to 2 days had already gone by. And if somebody was promised something within a week, we just had already used up 1 or 2 days of the shop's time for production, and it wasn't even out of the office yet. So definitely that was very painful. And we can go on to our next slide. So all of these things, you know, led up to us knowing that we were going to need to change our software, change our way we've been doing things. Our business has been growing, and we got to the point where at a certain revenue number, which we were starting to hit, our business was maxed out from an administration standpoint. Our systems required so much people time that we either needed to invest in more people or change the software to be more efficient internally. And that's when we started looking into needing Rootstock. It wasn't initially Rootstock, but an initial ERP and CRM system. We definitely determined that we wanted a cloud-based system, so that started narrowing down the suppliers or people that we looked at to supply this software for our business. And very early on, we had initially, chosen NetSuite, which is a big competitor to Rootstock, but we found that our business, the vertically integrated manufacturer, our revenue size, it didn't really fit their sweet spot of their core customers. Their manufacturing product wasn't as deep and robust as Rootstock's is, and there was a lot of things in our business processes that we're going to have to change, it seemed like, just to run the software. In addition, it was quite a bit more expensive. So we left NetSuite behind, and then we went over into the Salesforce realm to look at what applications exist there. And that's when we came across Rootstock and Kinandy. And again, looking at the sweet spot of customers, of who these companies have already signed on, Rootstock's existing customers at the time when we signed our, agreement to purchase the software, the customers that they had already signed up looked a lot more like ProTech did than the customers that Kinandy had signed up. So we knew that, people that needed a robust manufacturing platform to, manufacture in-house and not just outsource every single step and then bring it back in for assembly. We knew we needed all of that sort of purchase control, the, shop floor control, all the features that Rootstock has to offer. One of the things that we did to ensure, when we were choosing the software, and Rootstock actually helped us with this, and I don't know if this happens with all the, with every interaction with Rootstock, but it did with us. They helped us map our business processes. That was important to understand what the software needed to really achieve. We looked at it as inputs and outputs. Each single person or department has an input that triggers them to then perform an action, which we called an output. And we wanted to map every single step of the way of where the inputs and outputs were, so that we could ensure that, and we even looked at it and said, hey, is this input even necessary? So it gave us a chance to even do a little bit of review. One of the things, because it was a big change to us, we realistically were not coming from an ERP system, in that we didn't have shop floor control. We didn't have work orders going out to our shop floor. All of this stuff, we did not want to change a lot of our business processes. Believe it or not, we weren't having business process problems. We've been producing on time. We've been meeting our customers' demand. We've been, meeting our profitability where we want to be. So we didn't want to change our business processes. And Rootstock promised or showed us how we could implement the software without changing a lot of our business processes. We had to learn how to speak some of the terms of ERP, and then it came on to us, getting trained and working with our Rootstock implementation consultant after we had signed with Rootstock. And they were great in the training for us to learn the software, to learn a lot of the language, even helped us with some ancillary stuff, best practices advice. It was, very responsive. They did a great job. And then, we loaded all of our data that we did have. We tested in what's called a sandbox, which is basically a clone of your system, but it's on a different kind of login, so you can practice and do things on it without upsetting your go live or your production environment, your true environment. So we tested that out, tested our scenarios, ran month ends, made sure inventory transacted properly, were things hitting the right subledger accounts, were things decrementing from raw material nests properly. So, and then we hit our go live date about 1 year ago today. And we can go on to the next slide. We've only been live we've gone live for a year, but we've already seen an ROI on the system. A third-party organization called Nucleus Research helped us do an ROI study on our choice to implement a new software system, and the Rootstock, Salesforce, Financial Force environment has netted us an ROI of about 41% with a payback in 2.6 years. One of the big things for us is our business did grow, and we actually had an inefficient employee that worked in the front end of our office. And with this software, we let her go. With this software, it simplified our business processes and stuff so much, we didn't have to replace her. So, figure an employee that made, $40,000 a year, it really costs your business $70,000, $80,000. We're in New York, so business is expensive here to do. So, she probably cost our business $80,000. We didn't have to replace her. And that's not even factored into the average annual benefit here. One connected system has been great for us. I've worn the sales hat, I've worn the operations hat, I've worn fulfillment, I've worn a lot of the hats here. And one connected system where I can, from one screen, the Salesforce account, see open orders, see orders that have shipped, see orders, sales orders that are open, see the invoices that my customers have they paid them, all of this very easily from one screen in some simple clicks of a mouse. Having accurate inventory, we really never had that before, so that is huge. Our guys on the shop floor are spending less time running around looking for things, and we were able to even clean up a lot of dead part numbers, sub-assemblies and stuff, and just get them right out of the shop and get them right out of our system. So it's even cleaner too, the inventory. With better shop floor management, we had employees at the time that we didn't even know it, that there was rogue production of things happening. Guys were jumping ahead to produce. We had one area leader saying, hey, make these parts, another area leader, hey, make those parts, even though as a management team and on our production side, we didn't want those produced. And these guys were just going out and producing things. We found it through, the software at the end of the day. Why do we have so many of these parts? Why is there so much of this? And we found out that guys were just, producing rogue. So we shut that down, and nothing can be on our shop floor without a work order. So we've got more efficient production just from that aspect. I spoke about the accurate and quick customer service, where from the Salesforce account, your sales and customer service team is going to pretty easily be able to see anything related to your customer and the orders that they have in the system, and also get a good picture for, inventory, how many demands are there placed against that particular piece of inventory. If it's a finished goods SKU, you can very easily see what sales orders demands exist against that, and if it isn't in stock, when will it be replenished. Our finance side, the month-end close is literally a click of a button. It takes a couple of minutes. It used to take a day or so. Sometimes more, it took longer back in the day. I spoke about how we're able to do more with less employees. And then, lastly, and this is important, especially if any of you listening are, on the C-suite side of your business, the procedures and business processes have all been strengthened as a result of the system. It gives us a consistent way of performing our day-to-day transactions. So in training a new employee and finding out, did something go wrong, it strengthened all of those things. It gives us a lot better what we call succession planning. We're the next generation of ProTech people, and some of us are getting older. I'm particularly not, but some of my coworkers are. And it gives us the ability to bring on and train new employees much easier, much more coherently, and quicker than we needed to in the past. We can take a look at the next slide. Some of the lessons that we learned, or the gotchas throughout this process. Some of us, and myself included, we thought that, that in those spreadsheets, there's no inaccurate information. We had went to great pains to take spreadsheets, lock them down. Only one person had the access to do anything other than read only the spreadsheet. It was our vice president. And we're like, there's no way there's any inaccurate information in those spreadsheets. Going through annually and doing the costing updates, spreadsheets by spreadsheet for the bills and materials, it was unbelievably tedious. Well, going live to the software gave us a great chance to purge our old information and clean it up just to what we want. We wanted to start our production environment, our Rootstock. We wanted to start it perfectly clean. And we got rid of a lot of data, and we found out, man, going through it, this was wrong. This has been wrong this whole time. There was a lot more inaccuracies than we thought we had in there, and there was a lot more unnecessary and dead data too. So this gave us a great chance to really clean house. And it was somewhat of a tedious process, but we had fun with it. We kind of laughed at some of the old stuff that we had. We didn't know we had the rogue shop floor production. told you we shut that down by using work orders only. And then, one thing that I didn't see myself, being the person that was charged with getting this system completely implemented and overseeing the entire process, I didn't, expect, or, I knew it would be some of a challenge. It was a little bit more of a challenge selling the new system to, especially the people in our business that have been doing things for the same way for 10, 15, 20 years. It was, it hasn't been as much change, I think, as they were afraid of it at first, but certainly we had to work on selling the system to them. And we can go on to the next slide. Some of the things that we're looking at doing next to advance our organization with the Rootstock Salesforce platform. We're currently not using barcode scanners on our shop floor, and that's something that is going to be coming next for us. There's a local company here in Rochester, New York, that I believe recently chose Rootstock, and barcode scanners are a must, so we're going to kind of synergize with them and see how they've implemented them. I believe Rootstock just came out with a new bolt-on to their package, that RootScan, or something that, I think it looks like it makes the barcode scanning basically plug and play. There's more apps on the App Exchange that we're in the process of selecting to help us with shipping and order fulfillment that tie in our UPS right into our Salesforce, and also tie in the LTL and full truckload shipping into our Salesforce and Rootstock platforms. And lastly is more automation. There's a lot of things you can do, and I don't know how many people listening are existing Salesforce customers, users, admins, but you can do a lot to automate a lot of the processes that happen day to day, so that when A happens, B automatically happens without someone having to click something or remind someone. So we see a lot of potential with more automation for our routine day-to-day business processes. And that's really it for ProTech's journey. I'm going to turn it back over to David Bush, and he will talk more about Rootstock and show you, the audience, some of the slides and screens that we regularly use to make all this happen for us. Go ahead, David.
Thank you very much, Chris. We greatly appreciate you taking your time to go over this information with our listeners today, and thank you so much for making such good use of the Rootstock software. We look forward to you using it even more in the future. I do have one comment. I picked up on what you said about some of your employees getting older, but not you. So I might turn in a question about exactly how you pull that off. I'd like to hear more about that. But getting back to Rootstock, why Rootstock? Well, as Chris mentioned, Rootstock and Salesforce, quotes and orders and production, all of that is on the Salesforce platform. And so easily it talks to all those different components, talk to one another, making it much, much simpler to pull information out that you need to see. It's all in one place. So it's much, much easier than disparate spreadsheets that have to be combined somehow to get that information that's needed. The salespeople, as Chris mentioned, can see what's going on with inventory and production. So when they're talking to their customers, and their customers want to know when they're going to see product, well, they can make promises that are based on fact. So they're promises that can actually be kept, not just guesswork. Sales can determine pricing too, to a much greater degree and simpler degree for a product, because all the information they need to make up that quote is at their fingertips. What inventory do we have? What is the routing that will be required, that requires employees' hourly rates to be known? How much will it cost to buy the product that needs to be purchased to make these items? All of that information is readily available, very quickly available on the Salesforce platform. And Salesforce sales orders and quotes automatically flow into the Rootstock system. It's not a matter of taking information from one system and then having to manually enter it into another one. So that greatly reduces any error that you might see on the ERP side of the system. So let's talk a little bit about how Rootstock does this. We have already talked quite a bit in this section, and Chris talked about the value of using Salesforce and marrying Salesforce with Rootstock so that it's all the data and all the information is in one place. But I'd like to focus for just a few minutes that we have left on an area of Rootstock that is very helpful in helping you see data that you want to see and very quickly and efficiently. What I'd like to talk about is project control. Now, project control, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term, is actually an electronic method of segregating inventory and manufacturing transactions by stamping them with a user-defined identifier. The project number starts with the quote, the sales order, and then is carried through to purchasing and work orders, and even the manufacturing chart of accounts can be based on a specific project. This then allows the user to easily access all the information that is attached to that project. Now, what might a project be? Well, a project might be a contract, it might be a customer, it might be a specific customer order or item that is being built. It can be any one of those things. So what we're looking at here is the division record. When a division is set up at that very high level, you can see project active is checked. That means that project control is going to be functioning in this one division. So you may have multi-divisions, some who do use project control and some that do not. Let's move on to our next slide, the project master record itself. This master record is where the project is created. So you can see in this case, we have a project number that is MB26. That stands for mountain bike number 26. So those of you who were involved in our first series of webinars might remember that we often refer to building bicycles to help demonstrate the different aspects of the software. Well, this particular project, MB26, is going to be used, that code will be used or stamped on all of the records that are created while this mountain bicycle contract is being put together. You'll notice on the project master, there's also the manufacturing chart of accounts that could pertain to this project. This allows the user the option of creating specific account numbers for this one project. It can be done that way, or you can use your standard manufacturing chart of accounts for all projects. It's up to you. There's other information here on this screen too about whether what the status of the project is. Is it open? Can information continue to be developed for this project? Has it been completed? Different information like that, as you can see these various fields on the screen. And so how the project is going to be used, to what extent it will be used, is all based on how it's created in the beginning. Now we move on to the inventory item master. So here we're looking at the record that indicates this particular part number is something that we recognize. And you'll notice down here under miscellaneous commodity code overrides, the home project indicator says not home. I'd like to explain this to you because what this allows you to do is run part of your business in this division by specific projects, while other work that you do is covered by what we call the home project, or a single project that it acts as an umbrella for many, many different activities that you perform. Those of you who listened into the first webinar series on what project control is all about would have a better appreciation of how this can simplify your work. So the point is, though, that not all the work you do must be covered by a specific project when you've turned that flag on in a particular division. Many contracts or parts can be built using this home project concept. Well, that's about all we have time for today, but the question is, where are we going after today? Well, so far we have covered the many benefits of going from an unlinked spreadsheet system and outdated software to an integrated enterprise system, as it says here, with best-of-breed software solutions, including the Salesforce platform and project control, as we've already discussed. In our next Discover Rootstock ERP system, we're going to talk about the 5 inventory mistakes that are very commonly found in manufacturing today and what you can do to avoid them. It kind of whets your appetite a little bit for what is to come. So now we're going to go back to our moderator, David Cosgrove.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you, David and Chris. Excellent job. That was impressive. Before we go to everyone's questions, just a quick reminder that this webinar will be posted on our website at www.rootstock.com. And of course, after the webinar, if you have any further inquiries, please email us at marketing@rootstock.com. We'll now answer questions submitted during today's presentation, as well as take any new questions. And just a reminder, you can still submit questions to the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Okay, guys, we do have a few questions here. Our first question today is, with so many software choices on the market, why did you choose Rootstock?
Yeah, I can answer that. One of the things that initially attracted us to Rootstock was the depth and knowledge that the team there, from the sales team all the way to the manufacturing implementation consultants, have with actual manufacturing. Everyone there has great experience, a lot of years of experience, and even those that I have encountered that don't have a ton of experience, they're mainly on the software side, but they've all been trained and very responsive. So, you know, what attracted us to Rootstock was the knowledge, the breadth, the experience in manufacturing. Basically, that's all that Rootstock eats, breathes, and sleeps is manufacturing. So they understand this. They understand how to get. They gave us great confidence that they understood how to take us from the unlinked spreadsheets, all the mess that we had created, into a system and in a time frame that worked for us. And so they gave us great confidence. Their straightforward approach to pricing and just the overall personality and personability that we had on the initial encounter with the sales was all why we chose Rootstock.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Our next question is, our company uses spreadsheets for everything and believes if it is not broken, why fix it? How can I change this thinking?
Sure. One of the things that obviously, you know, everyone saw that I spoke about was internally selling the system, and this goes back to that. It can be tough to try to explain to someone that, hey, by you now, instead of winging it, the overall impact, the overall scope that it has on the entire organization, that the one person that kept his inventory on a napkin, now that it's in a system, when it comes to a month's end, our, you know, controller, someone in a different department now, instead of, you know, slaving over something for 2 days, now can finish something in the click of a button. It's all about, you know, expressing to your teammates and the other interactors in this thing how you're changing your business process, which we tried to keep as small as possible, further down the line has great impact to someone else's job in the overall organization. We share our profits, and by us explaining to our people that, hey, when we grow to the next level of revenue, we don't have to hire more office staff. We don't have to do this or that, keeping costs down and giving us more profit. So that was a big thing that helped me sell this and, you know, explain to people how going to a linked system versus the spreadsheets helped us. And it turns out more things were broken than we thought. So that's, you know, that's my answer to that question.
Dave, I might add something there. Several of the Rootstock customers that I've worked with have come off of spreadsheet systems, and something they've all mentioned they appreciate is knowing that the data they're looking at is the most current. They didn't have to depend on somebody going into the spreadsheets to update them at any time. They didn't have to wait till say 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the update, which was their update time, so they couldn't look at anything till 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Knowing that the data that you see on your screen, on each individual screen, is absolutely up to date at that moment, really makes a tremendous difference when you leave the spreadsheet system and go into an integrated ERP system like Rootstock.
Great, thank you so much for that, guys. And I guess to dovetail into that question, we have another question here that says, how did you convert individual spreadsheets into the Rootstock database?
It was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be. It is cumbersome, but it is also easier. It's not rocket science. All your old spreadsheets, they just need to be, using Microsoft Excel, do a save as into what's called a CSV file. Microsoft Excel does it for you. And then those CSV files can then be uploaded into the Rootstock environment or Salesforce environment using a free Salesforce tool called Data Loader. And you then take the fields that were in your spreadsheet, map them over to the fields in Rootstock, and then this Data Loader tool, you click a button and it brings all the data from your spreadsheet into Rootstock using that Data Loader tool. And we did it all mostly in the sandbox first. It's the test environment, and we made sure that it carried over properly and transacted properly, and then it was a pretty easy push over into our production environment.
Beautiful. Okay, great. Well, that wraps up our Q&A for today. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much, David. But before we end today's webinar, I'd like to present a brief look ahead at the upcoming topics in our new Discover Rootstock ERP webinar series. Our next Discover Rootstock ERP webinar is scheduled for August 15th, 2017, and will cover the topic, Discover Rootstock ERP, Top 5 Inventory Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. I encourage you to follow Rootstock Software on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and more for the latest and most important information about Cloud ERP. Follow Rootstock Software on your social media today. Thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on August 15th. Today's webinar is now over.